Russell, CNN Headline News. Half a century ago, residents near Roswell, New Mexico reported a UFO crash. Today, the Air Force released a report suggesting any sightings of so-called aliens were test dummies dropped from weather balloons. Eileen Pincus reports on a case some say is far from closed.
The story has been out there for 50 years. Now the Air Force has issued a new report about what really fell from the sky in the New Mexico desert in 1947. The Air Force says it was not extraterrestrials.
There were lots of dummies dropped. There were about 2,500 balloons launched during this 30-year period in New Mexico alone.
The Air Force says it began releasing dozens of crash dummies over desert skies for various purposes in the 1950s, to test new technologies like aircraft ejection seats and high-altitude parachutes. That and payload debris, says the Air Force, fit with what people reported seeing.
If I saw something like that, I'm riding along out there near Ruidoso and I'm wandering out in the desert and I see this funny-looking dish out there, I might want to poke around at it, but quite frankly, this is probably what it was.
The Air Force report doesn't bother to hide its scorn for UFO proponents, who've kept the so-called Roswell incident alive, along with theories of government cover-ups. But the report says such theories are affronts to the truth. The report debunks the so-called sightings point by point, detailing the technology under research at the time and even titling its 231-page report, Case Closed. The report does not impress UFO believers.
That you're essentially saying people are idiots. They can't recognize mannequins from real-life human beings.
Adding to the skepticism, the date of the tests and the date of the first sightings are years apart. The Air Force says eyewitnesses simply got it wrong. In Roswell, where a cottage industry has grown up around the rumors, preparations are underway for the 50th anniversary of the first alleged UFO sighting. The Army, which has been chafing under the accusation of a cover-up for years, hopes it has answered some questions.
We can't even keep single secrets. How could we have a conspiracy or a cover-up?
This report may not change the minds of true believers, but the military insists it will be its final word about what happened or didn't happen at Roswell. In Washington, Eileen Pincus for CNN.
Some Las Vegas, Nevada residents say the odds are good they saw a UFO last night. Police say they got several calls from people who saw strange lights in a V shape for about 15 minutes in the northwest sky. An hour earlier, a missile was launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base and its vapor cloud was visible, but that happened in the opposite direction of the mysterious lights. Is giving that explanation today for decades-old rumors of an alien spacecraft crash near Roswell, New Mexico. Since 1947, UFO believers have charged the government covered up the incident to hide evidence of extraterrestrial life. The Air Force says sightings of an alien spacecraft really were an Air Force balloon used to monitor the atmosphere for evidence of Soviet nuclear tests. It says reports of bodies recovered by the military were actually dummies used in high-altitude parachute tests.
They must look at the evidence. If you will read this book, and I'm sure you're going to take it home tonight and read it, quite frankly, you're going to find some very interesting and quite fascinating pieces of information about Air Force research. Whether you accept that as the Roswell information, I quite frankly don't know. But we do because it overlays so well with this period of time.
The Air Force report comes as the 50th anniversary of the Roswell incident approaches. UFO believers plan on gathering in Roswell to mark the occasion. Hotels are booked as well.
Our target that was attached to a high-altitude balloon as part of Project Mogul, a secret U.S. experiment to try to pick up the sound of Soviet nuclear tests. But the new Air Force report issued on the 50th anniversary of the Roswell incident is supposed to close the book on the case.
We're confident once the report is out and digested by the public that this will be the final word on the Roswell incident.
In the report, the Air Force theorizes that life-size mannequins used in the 50s for high-altitude parachute experiments and ejection seat testing could account for various reports of eyewitnesses seeing alien bodies removed from crash sites.
They saw gurneys come out. They saw body bags come out because the dummies were put into body bags to protect them. They saw people in pith helmets. They saw people in shorts out there brushing the bushes looking for the remnants of the balloons. And when you put all that stuff together and spin it, you find that it fits perfectly with many of the occurrences in Roswell during that era.
What doesn't fit, say UFO believers, is that Roswell was in 1947 and the first dummy test was conducted in 1953.
I don't know why they can't associate that time period. I'm sorry, I just don't have any information for that.
And those who claim to have seen aliens say they are shorter and have bigger heads and eyes than the Air Force dummies.
I don't reconcile that. I just have no idea why they say that.
While the Air Force has produced pictures of dozens of balloon payloads that could easily be confused with flying saucers, many critics still think it's all part of a cover-up. The Air Force insists there were no initial reports of alien bodies in Roswell in 1947, that those reports didn't surface until the 70s. As for why it took 50 years to come up with the dummy theory, the Air Force says it was simply the case of an officer doing routine declassification work and putting two and two together. Jamie McIntyre, CNN, The Pentagon.